Hi everyone, this is Darren here, and today I'm going to teach you more about how to make x the subject of the equation. I'll start off with a simple example, so please follow along. The first example would be, let's say, f equals to 33x plus 4y minus 7. Okay, so right now you see that f equals something. So in maths we'll call this, we'll say that this is f is right now the subject of the equation. So now right now f is the subject of the equation, we want to change it to x becoming the subject of the equation. So that means we are supposed to manipulate this algebraic equation until we get something like x equals to blank. Okay, so everything else we have to shift to the right and x will be on the left. So that's our goal. So now let's think about how do we achieve this. Okay, so how we go about doing this is usually by first bringing the x term to the left hand side and bringing this f to the right hand side. Why we do this is because you want the x term to be, all the x terms to be on the left and everything else to be on the right. So f is not x, so it should be on the right. So now I bring the f over. How I bring the f over is I minus f from both sides of the equation. Therefore, I will get this 4y minus 7 minus f. And then I bring this 33x over. How do I do that? I minus 33x from the right hand side, I minus 33x from the left hand side. So therefore, this becomes minus 33x equals to this. Okay. So now, we want to isolate for x and we have this extra minus 33 here. So it is actually relatively simple. What we have to do is just divide by negative 33. Therefore, we can say our answer will be x equals to 4y minus 7 minus f over negative 33. Now, if you do not want to leave the denominator as a negative, you can always incorporate the negative on top. So you just change this to f plus 7 minus 4y over 33. So this is our answer for the first example. Now in the second example, I make it more complicated. I introduce some terms where there is a square root, etc. So let's see how it's going to be done. This second example is slightly more advanced only, but I would say it's still relatively easy. As you can see, the x is here. So the x now has an f along with it and I divide by 4. So maybe slightly trickier. But again, we recall the first principle that we did. We need to have the term that is on the with x on the left hand side, everything else on the right hand side. So I'm going to keep this term on the left hand side. I'm just going to bring these two terms to the right hand side. So therefore, this will become f over 4 equals to 3 minus square root yg and plus 11 and plus 8. Plus 8. Okay? So now at this point, I realize that 3 and 8, we can just join them together, so it will become 11. So I'm going to do that. So this gives us 11 minus square root yg. Now, we just have to multiply by 4, so that we can get rid of the over 4 here. So I divide the left hand side by 4, I divide the right hand side by 4, I get 4 xf over 4 equals to 44 minus square root minus 4 square root yg, correct? Yes. Okay, so now these two 4's just cancel off. simply, right? So I'll erase and put it as such. So xf equals to this whole chunk. And now to isolate for x, we just divide f by the whole equation. So we divide f on the left hand side and divide by f on the right hand side. So we just get x on the left hand side. So x equals to 44 minus 4 square root yg over f. And now x is the subject of the equation. Take note that sometimes, right, even back in the first example, when we make x the subject of the equation, we have to make sure it is x and not x squared or x cubed, okay? So sometimes people make this mistake. They think that making x the subject of the equation means put x squared and say x squared equals what? And this would be not right. We have to do one more step and make it just x, okay? So x is the subject of the equation means literally just x and nothing more. There's no additional powers or even numbers in front or divide or anything. Okay. Now I'm going to move on to the third example. In this third example, we have x squared inside the equation. But before I cover this example, I want to show you something that is simple but will also apply to this third example here. Okay. What I mean to show you is this. Let's say we have x squared equals to 9. Okay, that's a simple one. So x squared equals to 9. And now we want to solve x, right? We're going to say x is equals to square root of 9, right? Because I'm going to square root the x, I'm going to square root 9, so I square root both sides, I get x equals to square root of 9. And then, you know that the square root of 9 is 3, right? So you think that this is the answer, and actually it's a mistake. I have done a mistake in these two steps, because why? There's one crucial thing I've left out. I should have realized that, hey, 3 times 3 is 9, but there is one other number that is, if you multiply the same two numbers together, gives us 9 also, and that is minus 3. Because if minus 3 multiplied by minus 3, it gives us 9. So therefore, at this stage, what we should actually do for the proper working is to put a plus and a minus. So therefore, we're going to have x equals to 2 possible answers. And this is actually one of the troubles in algebra, because sometimes now we're going to have an unknown having 2 possible answers. So we must be able to take this concept in our mind and accept it that yes, sometimes the unknown can have 2 possible answers. Okay, so please don't get confused. It's okay to have 2 possible answers sometimes. So then plus minus square root 9, this will just give us 3, right? So answer will be plus minus 3. So final answer is 2 answers and we are correct. So x is plus minus 3 in this simple example. So now, to carry on and use this knowledge, let's see. Suppose we are faced with this question. 1 minus 4x squared y plus 2f equals to x squared. Okay. So the first thing I notice is that it is x squared, right? As I said earlier, this will be an x squared example. But there's also another thing we have to take note, is that over here, there's also another x squared. So there's x squared on here and here, both sides of the equation. Tricky, but again, we just take note that for this, making x the subject of the equation, we just need to bring all the x terms to the left hand side and everything else to the right hand side. So what I'm going to do is, I'll leave this on the left hand side because it's already on the left hand side, so it will be done as such. Minus 4x squared y, I'm going to minus x squared because I minus x squared from the left hand side, I minus x squared from the right hand side, I get minus x squared here. And this x squared on the right hand side will just disappear because x squared minus x squared disappears, there's no more x's on the right hand side. Then I bring these two over with the same logic, giving us minus 2f minus 1. Okay? So I realized that, hey, actually, this question, everything is in negative, right? So we can actually do one thing. We can multiply by -1 on both sides of the equation, because maybe let's say I'm a particular person who doesn't like to deal with negative. So I'm just going to multiply by -1 on both sides of the equation. Therefore, I just get 4x squared y plus x squared equals to 2f plus 1. Okay? So now at this stage, quite easy to see, but still we have some problems here because there's x squared and x squared and we can't join the two because we know from simplification that these two can't be added up. So now how? What we must do is factorize. We factorize by pulling out the x squared. If I pull out x squared, I'll get 4y plus 1. Right? So this, because it is correct, because if I expanded this, I'll get back to this. If I take x squared times 4y, I'll get 4x squared y, and x squared times 1 gives us x squared. So we have factored correctly. So we are 2f plus 1. Okay? And then, now, what we have to do is just divide both sides of the equation by 4y plus 1 to give us, lastly, x squared. So x squared is equals to 2f plus 1 4y plus 1, okay, over 4y plus 1. And then recall my earlier example when I said x squared equals to 9. Yes, we're going to use it here because we are having x squared now. So I'm just going to square both sides. X squared becomes x, and this becomes square root. And then, remember when we do this, we have put a plus minus. So it's a bit cramped, but let me rewrite it. So I'll say equals to plus minus. So this is the final answer. Okay? So I hope this plus minus doesn't confuse you too much. It's just a thing that you'll have to get used to, because now in algebra there's going to be two answers to some unknowns. Like later on, even if you were to do quadratic equations or factorization, yes, you will have x equals to something or x equals to something. Okay? So now, moving on to the fourth example. Okay. So the fourth example, we have 5x minus 10xyg to the power of half times 3 equals to 15. So now, in this one, we have two x's here and then a multiply by 3. So how we treat it is that we have to recall Bodmer's also. We have to multiply by 3 first. So this will just give us 5x minus 30 xyg half equals 15. And now I realize that all of them can be divided by 5, right? Because 5 can be divided by 5, 30 divided by 5 is 6, and 15 divided by 5 is 3. So I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides of the equation, left and right. Divide the equations by 5. This will give me just x minus 6 xyg half equals to 3. And then this looks very similar to the last example. I'm going to factorize. I pull out the x, I get 1 minus 6yg half equals 3. And finally, I just need to divide the whole equation, or divide the left hand side by 1 minus 6yg half and right hand side by 1 minus 6yg half. So this will give me just x on the left hand side, and it will be very close to the answer. And x will be equals to 3 1 minus 6yg half. Okay, so g to the power of half. So this is the final answer. Okay, now on to my last example for making x the subject of the equation. We have this one here. We're going to have a cube root. Yes, a cube root. So it can be complicated, but again, we have to remember our other indices, our other laws and everything. Well, we will still get the correct answer. So we have cube root xy equals to 3f. And now we want to make x subject, right? So we have a problem. This is a cube root. So how do we get rid of the cube root? We just cube both sides of the equation. Therefore, this gives us xy equals to 3f whole thing cubed. So now this is one important rule we have to remember is when we are cubing the whole thing, 3 and f, right? We're cubing it. We have to remove the brackets. We can actually have to rewrite this as 3 cube f cube. This is one thing you will learn when you study indices. Okay, so if you may be wondering why I'm doing this as such, you can refer to indices. Okay, so now we have xy equals to 3 cube f cube, and this is just simply 3 cube is 3 times 3 times 3, giving us 27. And f cube is, we do not know because it's unknown, right? So we're going to just leave it as f cube. So now finally the last step, you probably see it by now, just divide both sides by y. We get x equals to 27 f cube over y. So this is the final answer, right? Yes, this is the final answer. And I hope that your understanding of making x the subject of the equations has improved. I hope that you enjoy and learn something from this video. And if you have, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.